There are a few things that we do here on our homestead because we don't have good farming land, we don't have pasture. We live in a river system that connects to a larger river, so it's tons of floodplain, very steep hills. Our house is at the top of it, maybe on 2 acres at the most. We're very limited to the space that we can actually grow things and harvest things and do traditional farming stuff on our homestead. But we're trying to maximize the property to the best of our ability. So we have 7 or 8 things that we do currently or have done in the past that's really benefited us. And it's a good example that there's no perfect property and you don't need perfect space to do all the things that you want to do. It just requires a little vision, a little creativity, and a little elbow grease. So here's the 8 things that we have done or are currently doing on our homestead. Number 1, and I would say this is the most important or tied for the most important, we grow a lot of our own food, thousands and thousands of dollars of produce every single year. So a lot of our food comes right here at our homestead. It's whole food, it's good for you, it's organic, it's healthy, right to the source. We store it in our basement or in our freezer, and we've got a lot of food each fall to put away that gets us through to the next growing season. Number 2, we create our own compost using our chickens. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put it up here. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll put a link below in the description. But a lot of our compost and the way we top off our garden and add more fertility to our soil that we have is we add compost that we make here from our chickens, and they do it for us. We literally just, at the end of the season, scoot the chickens aside a little bit, go in there with a pitchfork, fill up a wheelbarrow, top off our gardens, and that regenerates a lot of nutrients back into our soil. Number 3 is raising egg-laying chickens. We got egg-laying chickens originally to create compost originally and to prep gardens for us. I didn't really care that much about the eggs. I'm not a huge egg fan, to be honest, but now we start having kids and the family's growing. It's actually becoming more of a priority. We're on our 4th egg-laying flock right now, and we love having chickens for eggs. If we need to butcher one for meat, we're certainly willing to do that. And of course, creating compost. So that's our 3rd thing that we do on our homestead. And you don't need a lot of acres to do it, and you don't need perfect farmland to do any of the things that I just mentioned. Number 4 is harvesting our own maple syrup, which is a big thing because we like to use that instead of using sugar. It's very expensive if you go to the store. It's around $50 or $60 a gallon right now. So we try to get as much maple syrup as we can. For us, it's 3 gallons. That usually gets us through a year. My wife uses it for cooking. Of course, we put it on things for breakfast and other things. We just like having it. It's a great resource that we have here on our property. And we've got 25 to 30 maple trees just in our yard or alongside our yard by the woods. So why not just use those trees that are right next to our house, make maple syrup, boil it over an open fire. It's amazing, everybody loves it, and we even have enough to give away a little bit each year. Number 5 is harvesting firewood to heat our own home. We heat our home with firewood. If you're not doing that and you have firewood on your property and you have a house that's set up to do that or could be set up to do that, you don't know what you're missing. It's amazing. It's my favorite feature of this property is the fact that we have good hardwoods and even some woods that most people wouldn't burn, like aspen or something like that. We love burning that stuff in the spring and the fall when it's not so cold outside. We love having firewood for all kinds of things, and it not only lessens our bill as far as LP is concerned, but it keeps the hours down on our furnace, meaning our furnace, which is our backup heat, by the way. It comes on only when we don't want to heat with wood anymore at the end of the season or at the beginning of the season. So heating with wood is a huge asset that we absolutely love. And I don't know if this counts, but we do use it, and it's really helped our homestead, especially with growing food and with fencing, is that we take the limbs or the posts from the trees on our property. If they're small trees, we'll just cut them down because they're probably going to get shaded out by the bigger ones. We have a lot of mature trees on our property. Or if we've got relatively straight limbs, we'll use them for teepee trellises in our garden. We'll take trees that are about this big around and edge the entire garden. I've shown that in previous videos before. We use them for fence posts, and if we're cutting down big trees anyway for firewood, we keep the smaller stuff. Everything gets used either for a campfire or it gets used for the things I mentioned. Number 7 is raise meat chickens in meat tractors on grass in our yard. We have an empty yard space. I don't know how big it is, but we've done everything from just raising like 30 meat chickens a year, which is definitely not enough, all the way up to around 100. And we've done that a lot. So I've raised, I don't know how many meat chickens, I can't even count, a lot of meat chickens here. And it's a great way to fill up your freezer and have some protein, food security for you and your family. Everybody pretty much likes chicken. If you eat meat, that's one of the meats that almost everybody pretty much eats. So we went with chicken. That's our go-to protein source here on our homestead. And it only takes 8 weeks with the Cornish cross. So it's not like you're having a breeding stock or you have to wait 16 weeks like it might with other breeds. 8 weeks, when it's all said and done, your freezer is full for the year. I mentioned before that we have a lot of mature trees on our property. We've got 25 to 30 maple trees in our yard. We've got 18 mature, I literally counted one day, 18 mature oak trees in our yard, those being deciduous trees. We also have cherry and white birch and aspen and, let me think once, and ash. Deciduous means that they lose their leaves every year, and therefore I collect them with my lawnmower. I spend one whole day collecting leaves, putting them into the chicken run so they can make compost. I also use them for putting on our garden as mulch. I use it for a lot of things. Leaves are an amazing natural resource that most people just put out on the curb if you live in town, or most people just toss into the woods. But it's such an amazing resource that most people are missing out on. Using leaves for bedding in the chicken coop, for creating compost, it's just an amazing thing. And once I discovered that, picking up leaves was actually kind of a joy because you know it's going to a good cause. It's not just a waste byproduct from all these trees you have. When I first started homesteading, I wanted to get into it slowly because I wasn't great at it. I didn't grow up in a homesteading family. That stuff was all new to me. I was self-taught. I was reading Joe Salatin books. I was watching Justin Rhodes. I was doing all that stuff. And then success started happening because each year I was trying to master one thing or two things every season. And the very first year I homesteaded, it wasn't gardening actually. It wasn't egg-laying chickens like a lot of people do. It wasn't even maple syrup or any of that. My first thing I did for the first two years, I believe, was meat rabbits. I was talking to a guy at a church I was going to at the time, and he said, get meat rabbits. They're really easy. Just get 2 females and a male, breed your own rabbits, raise them up, butcher them for meat. You can eat them, you can sell them. That's kind of what got me into homesteading to begin with. I was really interested, but I didn't know how to start. Gardening, chickens, whatever. I knew cows was going to be too much, or sheep, or anything bigger. But meat rabbits is a great way to ensure that you have plenty of protein and healthy food for you and your family. And they're quiet, they don't take a lot of space, and you can use all of their manure to go straight into your garden. It's cool manure, and that's a really big blessing for us too. So meat rabbits, I owe a lot to that because that taught me a lot about raising animals, and that's a great starter. I think meat rabbits is by far the easiest animal to raise, and then going to egg layers probably after that. So I don't know if hunting and fishing counts, but I'm a big outdoorsman. I love fishing, I love hunting, it's one of my passions. And so behind me we've got a river here, and over there we've got a trout stream on the north side of our property. So occasionally I will catch fish on my property, not too much, I don't want to fish it out, but we'll catch fish and harvest them and eat them. Another thing we do here is I deer hunt on my property, and about once a year I get a deer and we harvest the deer for that. That's another way to utilize your property as a homesteader, is hunting and fishing. If you have a trout stream going through it or any kind of river, little river like this behind it, and it holds fish, use it. And there's a lot more that we could be doing. This hasn't even scratched the surface, those things that I mentioned to you, those 9 or 10 things. Thanks for watching and supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. See you later.